Calxiyn and Hunter here. If you guys enjoyed this video, you guys should become patrons over on Patreon. So earlier in the week, much to the curiosity and dismay amongst other emotions of many, we made a video about how Neo is disguising herself as Oscar. But you guys wanted us to talk about a more serious concept that we had, which was that Ozpin has already started controlling Oscar and is just pretending to be Oscar.
Okay, that's probably more likely.
Yeah, and I talked about that, something that I wanted to do this week, so, I mean, a lot of you guys were like, Cal, when are you going to talk about that? Because, like, this is...
What do you think is more likely?
Weird.
Them all being drugged, or...
By the casserole, by Neo's casserole that she had. I mean, could Ozpin still drug them with the casserole? I mean, we could still include that in our theory about Ozpin.
It wasn't Neo. Ozpin drugged himself and everyone else with the casserole?
Yes.
Okay.
I guess.
That's even more bizarre.
I don't know why they do that. But anyway, so basically this is based off, I guess, how Oscar has changed his clothes. Right? He also has red boots, which is a reference to the ruby red slippers from Wizard of Oz. I mean, that doesn't really matter for this theory.
He looks more fashionable, which seems to be a Neo thing.
Yes, he looks more Ozpin-ish.
Did Ozpin
with his outfit. I mean, he had the coat sort of thing going on, right? So it's sort of like that sort of thing. But also, people are saying the way that he's talking is more like when the voice actor does the Ozpin voice as opposed to the Oscar voice. Right? Because sometimes Shannon McCormick comes in and does his Ozpin voice, but sometimes the voice actor for Oscar does an Ozpin voice. And
is that really?
Yeah.
I haven't noticed that.
And this sounds...
Are you sure?
Yes. And this sounds more like the Ozpin voice that the Oscar voice actor uses. Right? So I think that's sort of interesting. Right? Because we've heard, like, Ozpin talk in Oscar's head, but remember the scene when Oscar's, like, trying to grab, like, Ruby and the relic? That's Oscar's voice actor talking. Was it not? Right? So it's that sort of subtle difference that a lot of people are like, he's talking a lot more Ozpin-y and a lot more like, I did not lie to you. Like, obviously that's not, like, you know, not his accent or whatever, but even when he's talking to sort of John, like, I don't know how much longer I'll be me, like, all of those sort of things, they sound a bit more Ozpin-ish. Like, it's not something I can necessarily pinpoint, it just sounds more like that. You know what I mean? Like, it sounds, I don't want to say robotic, but it sounds more...
Formal.
Yeah, formal, like a proper way of speaking. And he doesn't have the cane, but, I don't know why. I don't know why that is. Maybe it would give too much away, but here's the interesting part, at least the part I think is interesting, is that when Ruby is talking to Crow, and she keeps saying, Ozpin hasn't been around to help us, and all that stuff, you can't actually see Oscar in the shot. So if he had some sort of facial sort of tell, right, it wouldn't have been shown because Ruby's actually blocking Oscar with the camera, and so I think that, I mean, obviously she's right behind him, but they sort of, I wonder if that could be an intentional choice to keep him hidden, because what if Ruby said, you know, Oscar hasn't been around, or Ozpin hasn't been around to help us, and then Ozpin sort of had this look of recognition on his face, like some people do when their names are called or when they're talked about, right, that is subconscious, I guess, or unintentional, and I've
never heard of that.
You know what I mean? It's like, I don't want to say when people are talking about you, but, you know, you sort of perk up almost, or he would feel almost bad because Ozpin, you know, Ozpin hasn't been there. He would try to act a bit more innocent in that moment because it's like, oh, like, Ruby's sort of on to me right in this moment. And so... Act
cool. Act like a young person.
Natural, right?
Hello, fellow kids.
It's like how Ruby...
Do you want to skateboard today?
It's like how...
I have the new Sonic the Hedgehog video game. I don't know why I went with Sonic the Hedgehog there.
I don't know, this is the perfect one to go. But you know what I mean? So if Ruby had said, oh, you know, Oscar hasn't been here, and then Ozpin, who is controlling Oscar, sort of has this, like, look on his face, like,
Ozpin, who's saying, hello, fellow young people.
Exactly.
Would you like to smoke that dank?
It's just one of those things where it's like, I feel like keeping him out of the shot is almost the same reason why they kept Raven out of the shot when Ruby used her Silver Eyes, because everybody thinks that that has to do with the Maiden powers, and they kept Raven out of the shot so we couldn't tell whether or not she was affected, or whether or not Vernal was affected and all that stuff. So I think camera angles are important, and so why would Ruby, like, intentionally block Oscar like that? You know what I mean? Unless the stuff that she is saying would affect Ozpin differently, and we would see that in the facial expression. That's sort of my crack theory. I mean, I can't say that for sure, but I feel like every time there's been some sort of camera work done, it's been for some sort of intentional purpose, if that makes sense. Like, it's been for some reason, and I can't necessarily think of anything right now, but again, sort of the same thing with certain characters being out of shot when something happens that the fandom is sort of theorizing about, right? Or, you know, just sort of other things that are supposed to keep secrets. I guess that's the best way to put it, right? So yeah, that's what I think may be happening. I think that they may have intentionally covered his silhouette with Ruby so they didn't have to animate the expressions there, so we wouldn't have seen, oh, see, that's a little shady, you know what I mean? So all we have to really work on is his voice and his change of clothes, the fact that he's come back. Because what if our theory was true originally, that Oscar did go to run away or kill himself, and Ozpin was like, nope! And so Ozpin just sort of took control, but now he's sort of acting. And why would Jean, I mean, obviously Jean was angry, but I feel like Jean being like, how do we even know that's really him? Like, it could be Ozpin just lying, right? And so for Jean to say something that sort of, pointed, if that makes sense, I feel like that is somehow coming back. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's, see, like, Jean says he's sorry to Oscar, right, for accusing him of doing that, but now Ozpin is doing the thing that he was accused of, because that seems to be sort of a running theme with Ozpin, is that Ozpin sort of gets caught for something he didn't do, and then him doing it afterwards is worse. If that makes sense? Like, he does it afterwards anyway, even though the person had falsely accused him in the first place. Like, it's sort of like how we all thought he had this, like, deep dark secret with the relic, and then we did, like, see a deep dark secret, and it wasn't exactly what Ozpin said, but it was kind of worse than we imagined, right? So it was sort of one of those. It's almost like, oh yeah, well, Ozpin wasn't controlling Oscar until after, and then Jean apologized. Like, that would be very stingy for everyone, especially for Jean. Like, I trusted you, I apologized to you, but you were doing the thing. And
I ate your casserole!
And then Ozpin's like, well, I wasn't doing it when you said, I started doing it after, and like, no, that's not any better. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I sort of imagined happening.
I feel like that's making Ozpin a little bit too shady, almost.
I mean, he's been gone this entire time. How do we actually know he was gone? You know what I mean?
Yes, I don't know. That's a real possibility.
That's what I'm saying. And so here's sort of the other thing.
I'm sorry, like, it's all totally valid, and I really do believe that this is a possibility. I just really want a drug casserole.
Oh my god. Nobody said anything about Maria either. I mean, in terms of Oscar, like Ozpin, and so I wonder if the reason why Ozpin locked himself away was also to do with the fact Maria was there, and he recognized her somehow, like, you know what I mean? And so obviously he locked himself up after Crow punched him in the face because he had a tantrum and wanted to go in timeout, I guess. Or like, I don't know, Ozpin's just crying about the fact that he got punched for a good reason or whatever. And, you know, upon seeing Maria, I feel like he was also sort of locking up a bit. And so I think that that's sort of interesting. But I wonder now, so here's the tell, at least what would be the tell for me. If going forward, Ozpin is acting a certain ways to Maria because he knows that she's a silver-eyed warrior and that's somehow connected to all the Ozpin stuff. Because we did a theory, like Ozpin has 2 silver-eyed warrior children in one of his many lives, right? We sort of did this theory that maybe the silver-eyed warrior's power is given from the god of light but somehow happens when Ozpin procreates, right? And so if he starts acting differently towards Maria, or starts acting differently towards Crow or towards Jean, that would be the tell.
Gives someone a slice of his own casserole, if you know what I mean.
Oh god, Hunter, why? Why? What did I do to you to make you like this?
You didn't do shit.
Oh god. Anyway, So that's pretty much my point. I think the easiest way to see it is continue to listen to how he talks, right? That's the first thing. And see his interactions, if they're different with RWBY, Maria, Crow, right? That sort of thing, because that would be the biggest tell, at least for me. Even when RWBY compliments Oscar's clothing, like, I wonder if that could be something too, because a lot of people took that as a shipping moment, but it could also be like, oh, like, maybe Ozpin's a little embarrassed that his student is, like, I don't want to say flirting with him because it wasn't really flirting, like she just said his clothes look nice, but it's like, that's a little uncomfortable, you know what I mean? So it's sort of like, ha, 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 you know, he doesn't, like, look exactly like that, but you know, he does that sort of thing where it's like, ah, shucks, RWBY, even though I'm like, a 20-year-old man and not the boy that you have a crush on, not even 20, like, 2,200, a lot.
Old enough that it has stopped mattering.
Yeah.
Long time ago.
Anyways, so that's it. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, you guys should subscribe. You guys should become patrons over on Patreon, and we will see you guys later. Bye. Thank you guys so much for watching, and if you guys want to support the channel, you guys should be patrons, just like our wonderful patrons whose names will come on the screen now. $10 patrons get videos sometimes 2 weeks in advance, sometimes 3 weeks in advance, basically much earlier than anyone else. They can also request us to do a video for them, so this could be a reaction, a theory, a discussion, anything like that. Our $5 patrons get a week in advance early access, or somewhere within that time frame, so between 2 days early and 7 days early, basically, but usually it's 7 days early, because I'm good with my scheduling. Anyway, our $1 patrons and all of our patrons above the $1 tier get access to our Discord server, so if you guys want to talk with us, talk with other fans of whatever you're watching right now, you guys can, and I hope that we will see you there. Bye.